Hi, Dee. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Howdy ho, folks, and welcome to Empowering Democracy.
Yes.
Indeed, welcome to Empowering Democracy. I'm
Thank
your
you. Great
host,
to be here.
Joe Firestone. And with me today is Gregory Mallard, uh, the great activist from Georgia, and also Dee Peers.
Not only am I an activist from Georgia, I'm also somebody who focuses on migrant worker issues, particularly that of in the Philippines as well. So that's one of my areas of expertise.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And I'm also joined by Brandy Weaver and Dee Peers, the co-hosts of Around the World with Brandy and Dee, whose show we left only a few moments ago to start, okay, on this one. So thank you for coming, everybody.
Happy
And
to be here.
our topic for tonight, of course, is what are the evidences of the end of liberalism that we're currently seeing in the United States? And so who wants to weigh in on that?
Well, the first step that we're going to have to take in getting rid of neoliberalism in the U.S., and it's an honest fact, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, we've got to dump the corruption. We've got to get the money out of politics to end neoliberalism so that way we can have a system that is more favorable toward the American public instead of those on the top. So we're going to have to dump the corruption in order to dump neoliberalism. There's no way around it. Shouldn't be any way around it at all.
Okay, so what you're saying, Greg, is that we still have the ideology of neoliberalism around.
Yep.
And that is still choking our political system. And really, the only quick way to get away from it is to get rid of the people who are holding such an ideology. And to do that, we have to get rid of the corruption. We have to make the big money they're taking to keep them in office toxic to their campaigns.
That's correct. That's the only way we're going to be able to be successful in our movement to dump neoliberalism. Mm-hmm. You don't get rid of neoliberalism without dumping the corruption in politics, even if we have to dump the corrupt incumbents while we're at it.
Yes, and I guess I should add there that the corruption in politics is part, okay, of neoliberalism. In other words, it was the neoliberals who encouraged, okay, the development of this corruption in politics, who supported the Supreme Court decisions that fed the market fundamentalism that we have now, and that allowed this overweening power, this oligarchy that we have to deal with now, okay, to develop in the first place. But any comments, Brandy, at this point? Okay, let me do this to grease the discussion, okay, a bit. Okay, make it easier. There was a piece that appeared in the American Prospect that I'm going to share. It was from Robert Kuttner, who before Dave Dayen was the editor of the Prospect and one of the founders of it, I believe, for many years. I think this is by Kuttner. Let me see. Pull it up and see. Okay, the article is very apropos to what we're talking about now. What comes after neoliberalism?
Fascism.
Okay, and Kuttner, let's hope not, wrote this on March 28th, 2023, and I've been sitting on it since then. The title is "What Comes After Neoliberalism," and the tagline is "We're winning the battle of ideas. We have a long way to go before we win the politics." And there's a picture of Joe Biden delivering remarks on the economy on January 26, 2023, in Springfield, Virginia, which is right around here, not too many miles away from where we are. I had the good fortune to attend a 3-day conference last week on what comes after neoliberalism and how to get there politically. The event, convened by the Hewlett Foundation, was titled, quote, "New Common Sense," unquote. It included leading economists, strategists, and Biden administration officials. The prospect, I should add, is a grateful grantee of Hewlett, which is spending upwards of $100 million to foster a new economic paradigm and a politics to match. Let me start with the good news. I've been working to defeat market fundamentalism and its political consequences nearly all of my intellectual and political life, which if I'm correct, I'm just adding it. I think that's about 50 years. Okay.
Yeah.
That he's been around fighting this fight. I never thought I'd live to see a time when my allies were in charge of the government and the premise of market efficiency had ceased to be conventional wisdom. The good news is that we've just about won the battle of ideas, says Kuttner. Reality has been a helpful ally. The core neoliberal claim that the economy would thrive if government just got out of the way has been demolished by the events of the past 3 decades. Neoliberalism has been a splendid success for the top 1% and an abject failure for everyone else. It has also been ruinous for the planet. Markets disastrously price carbon too cheaply, and the globe is overheating as a result. Markets also mispriced securities, leading to the financial collapse of 2008 and its political and economic consequences. And note that mispriced, quote unquote, is itself a misleading anodyne term. This was not just a technical error. Viewing neoliberal fundamentalism in terms of markets as impersonal forces leaves out the political feedback loops. It wasn't just impersonal markets that priced carbon wrong. It was politically powerful executives who further enriched themselves by blocking a green transition decades ago, when climate risks and self-reinforcing negative externalities were already well known. And it was financial executives who further enriched themselves by creating toxic securities and using political allies in both parties to block salutary regulation. Despite its handy alliance with free market economists, neoliberalism is not about impersonal market forces. It's about power. And the flip side of elite power is the destruction of jobs, communities, and families. When both parties pretend that nothing is amiss, this creates an opening for ethno-nationalism and neo-fascism. All during the era that spanned Carter, Clinton, and Obama, a Democratic Party worthy of the name, who has been putting forth a robust form of social democracy as the better alternative to both neoliberalism and neo-fascism. That it failed to do so is why we have Trumpism. One can tell parallel stories throughout the West, and by that he means the collective West, the other states that are allied with us in various endeavors like the Ukraine war. The hopeful news is that neoliberal ideas about how economies should work are largely in in disgrace. And we now have the first post-neoliberal administration in power, okay, in Washington. I wonder about that statement, how, post-neoliberal this Biden administration is. The Biden administration has explicitly disavowed all aspects of neoliberalism, he says, including the assumptions about free trade and the alleged efficiency of outsourcing, the lack of support for trade unions, and the bipartisan contempt for industrial policy. Well, I guess you have to question that statement in view of what happened to the railroad unions.
Yep.
And their recent strike. I think we have someone else who just joined us. Let me see if I can see who that was. Oh, I think it's Greg. Okay, I think it's just Greg coming in and out.
Yeah,
So-
he may be having troubles with the internet.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's got storms in his area tonight.
Yeah. Well, the mention of fascism, and he put up an article of Noam Chomsky saying neoliberalism are the roots of fascism. But, with everything that's going on in our government right now, and even since Biden has took over, it feels like we're already dealing with fascism.
Yes, I agree. We are already dealing with fascism. I think much of the Republican Party is openly fascist right now. And there are many.
I think a good portion of the Democrat is right there behind them.
Yes, so do I. In other words, these recent attempts at censorship are certainly fascist, okay, in character. The way the Democratic Party uses propaganda, the way it restricts political participation, okay, in various ways, the way it's caved to right-wing demands of various kinds and still caves, the way it's responding to Kevin McCarthy right now in relation to the negotiations over the debt limit. In other words, there's a lot of screwing around going on now. The Republicans are using austerity ideology and neoliberal ideology, echoing it every single day in their discussions over the debt limit, and the administration won't put an end to it by simply minting the damn coin.
Yep.
In other words, it's really simple to dispense with this and to show how ridiculous the whole thing is. And, they're not doing it. Okay, anyway.
Okay, he's waiting to get back in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I added him. Okay. Hey, Greg.
No, you left me out in the cold.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you out in the cold. And to prove it, I'm going to ask you what you think about all this.
I'm in lockstep with what Brandy said with the road to fascism, and I actually shared an article, and it's something from Noam Chomsky, but also Mussolini said that the merger of corporate and state